I think that there is no place harder to be a truly loving person than living with the jerk you're married to.
Is true forgiveness ever possible? And if so, what does it take for someone to really forgive, and not keep holding on to those bitter feelings?
Well, I definitely believe that forgiveness is possible. Actually, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. A few months ago, Hillary Clinton was being interviewed, and somebody said, well, how could you forgive Bill? And she said, I didn't do it for him, I did it for me.
Great.
And it's a great answer.
Yes.
Except that that's a unilateral forgiveness.
Yeah, I was going to say, and what about the relationship?
Yes, it's a unilateral forgiveness, and very often that is what happens. The person who feels themselves the injured party just gets over it because they don't like living with the resentment and the irritation and the anger and the underlying, you know. So very often the injured party just sort of says, well, okay, and lets it go. And the relationship can continue to build from there. But the injury is there.
Right.
The other kind of forgiveness that we really want to talk about is the relational forgiveness. And this is where we've been leading in our discussion this morning, where the perpetrator, if you will, is able, first of all, to forgive themselves. That's a big one. That really needs to happen, and then, as we've been saying, everything that led into the affair, everything that was missing in the relationship, can be looked at.
I tell my clients I have this scar for a reason, that when they come in, there's a crisis, there's a gaping wound, and our job as therapists is to assess the situation, stop the bleeding, stitch it up, if you will, and that over time, through the healing process, which takes time, that, you know, in the future, you won't look at this every day. It won't hurt every day. When it does hurt, how you show up for your partner to say, you know, is that a trigger? Do I need to turn that movie? Are you okay? You know, to take care of this wound. But over time, you know, I talk about getting through, not getting over, and that forgiveness is a process, the decision, and to know what's your definition of forgiveness. To me is
it's
very
not condoning
important.
the behavior, right?
Right, and then, but healing is possible. Forgiveness is possible.
Right.
You know.
I think living is about responding to the details of everyday life from the ego, but there's an observing ego that's looking at things at 30,000 foot. And our life is a journey. And the goal for most of us during our lifetime is to become a loving person. And on our path in our life, there are going to be challenges, opportunities that will help us practice becoming loving. And so I think that there is no place harder to be a truly loving person than living with the jerk you're married to.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Helen.
I mean, handsome, distinguished jerk in this case.
You know, we can learn to preach a good sermon. We can go to India and be loving with Mother Teresa, or we can give, but then we go home and there's our partner. Every obstacle in your path is an opportunity to do a spiritual practice.
And isn't your spouse like your growth gift? I mean,
Absolutely.
they can give you so many opportunities to become a better person as you learn to forgive and communicate in a healthier way and all that. So it's like the sand in the oyster. That's what I say in my workshop. I say, the sand in the oyster, it's gritty and it's annoying to the oyster, but it produces this beautiful pearl. So I like to tell that analogy to my clients to give them some hope,
Absolutely.
The thing that we found most useful, and Helen and I working with couples, is that a curiosity, which we talked about before, that leads ultimately to an empathic experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask, where's empathy in this?
Where
So
is
here we go.
And I I can't be empathic with you as long as I just think you went off and had sex with my best friend or
Right.
whoever. But if I can really get it, that the relation in our relationship produced or did not produce for you the kind of safety that you need to thrive. And obviously, it didn't produce safety for me,
Right.
because I went to my computer and you went to another person, or vice versa. But if the partners can get to empathy and then validation, you know, that really makes sense that you would do that, and I can imagine that. And that's where therapy is a process. The whole thing is a process, because
Right.
you're not going to start with empathy. You're going to start with blame.
Yes.
But when you get to empathy, then if I really get it and I can feel what it must have been like to live in this relationship that's devoid of safety, which is all that's missing in all relationships,
Right.
is an absence of safety.
Right.
Okay. This has been a great discussion, and it's heartening when you think about forgiveness and whether it's been from an affair or any hurt, that not only is forgiveness possible, but it frankly is imperative. Because if you hold on to that bitterness and recriminations, the relationship will fail, or you'll just be in misery. So the answer is to create safety in the relationship and to move on in a very intentional way, so that the relationship can thrive and the space between us can be filled with love.